All right. Well, we are finishing up. Yeah, come grab a seat, guys. We are finishing up our Helter, Skelter series. If you've been with our journey so far this month, it's been quite an adventure so far. And if this is your first time being with us on a Sunday evening, Helter Skelter is pretty much, like I mentioned before, this expression meaning involving haste, disorder, confusion, chaos. And we wanted to talk about what does it look like to have a healthy soul, a good rhythm to your soul. And so I thought it'd be so cool and different because every time we do a panel here, it is just eaten up. It is so awesome, and you guys engage and participate so well with that. To have some people kind of bring some advice and some thoughts from their respective fields. And here's why we're doing this. It's because I truly believe that there is a strong correlation between holistic living intertwined with your soul, okay? Because all the stuff, the epidemics that is out there in the world and society, the answer, and I may sound far-fetched for saying this, but I don't believe so, the answers are found in the Bible, actually. And the Bible has these principles and these verses that are explained and communicated for a reason. They're not just this irrelevant book that is not applicable today in 2024, but they actually serve a huge purpose and a huge meaning in our lives today. It's a reason why, the concept in the Bible is talk about to protect your heart, guard your heart. Because in society today, if you don't protect your heart, it just leads to all these setbacks and roadblocks. The Bible talks about how you need to renew your mind, your thought patterns, because if you don't, it leads to negative thinking, and that negative thinking leads to depression and all these mental health illnesses and stuff like that. The Bible talks about how we need to rest. Because anybody who works more than 50 hours, whether you work 50 hours, 80 hours, 90 hours, you're always going to achieve the same productivity. Why? Because God has intended to run the world He has intended to run. It's on a tempo. And so all these different things, there are so many self-help books out there that claim to give the answers to holistic living, to find the solution in nailing life, into really achieving life well. But here's the thing, here's the problem, here's the beef I have with all these self-help books in Indigo and stuff like that, is that the self-help books put you at the helm of all the decision-making. It puts you in charge of everything. And that's why I have a problem with it, because we, no matter who we are in this room, we are always prone to self-sabotage. And the reason why we choose to follow Jesus and choose to follow and have our worldview coming through the Bible is because wherever we fail, Jesus does not. And all the principles that the self-help book talks about, and the major categories and major points that self-help books talk about are practice generosity, practice life-giving relationships, and practice gratitude. Hello? They're all here in the first place. Right? It's all found in the Bible originally. And so why not go straight to the source when it can affect our holistic living? Now, today, it's just a bit different. We're going to have some guests with us. And give a round of applause to our guest panel, by the way. Yes. Our young adults. Our young adults are absolutely amazing. Now, I want to just go ahead. Now, unfortunately, one of the guest panelists couldn't make it. Her daughter was just pretty sick tonight, and so we're praying for her before. Her name is Larissa. Her daughter is sick, but we're going to keep her in prayers and keep her in our thoughts. But unfortunately, she can't be with us tonight, but it's all good. We have the rest of the panel here, and we're going to have a really good and valuable conversation. Now, from furthest to closest, I just want to give you a chance to introduce yourself. Tell me, what is your job title, and give us a synopsis of what day-to-day looks like for your job right now. Ryan?
My name is Ryan Ton, and I'm a psychologist, and been practicing psychology now for, 15, 20 years, somewhere in there.
Just dabble, right?
Yeah. And I guess what my day looks like, I'm an assessment psychologist. I'm actually a pretty bad therapist, to be honest. So I don't do therapy. I just do psychological testing, and I do it mostly with kids. And over the past decade, I've kind of veered towards autism, so the diagnosis of autism. So I'll typically do a clinic for a week, see a whole bunch of kids, and then I'll spend the next 3 weeks writing reports.
Awesome.
My name is Kendall. I'm a registered dietitian. I work out of a hospital in St. Paul, And my day is different every day. So I work in the hospital. I have all the patients in the hospital. That includes long-term care, psychiatric, dialysis, and as well as my acute care patients. But I'm also the only dietitian in my community. So I also do all of the eating disorder, outpatient referrals. I have home 2 feeds. I have everything that gets referred to me. So different every day.
Really cool.
I'm Dr. Kelly. I 20 plus years, I guess, as a chiropractor, and I got about 150,000 treatments in when I found that I wasn't getting the same impact. So throughout my practice, I'd always been really focused on nutritional interventions, lifestyle interventions, and it really kind of guided me towards consulting work, health consulting work, and health coaching, I suppose. And my day is dealing with people all over the world, primarily obviously in North America, and helping put in interventions, lifestyle changes. And I love where you're going with this because the failure rate without knowing a why is like 99%. You attach a why and you attach purpose and vision behind it, and miracles happen.
Yes. On a side note, my wife loves scrolling through videos, chiropractor videos. She gets a kick out of it to see all those neck cracks and stuff like that. Yeah, the cracking stuff like that. So you do that lots. So if you just do it to me right now, I don't want you to do it to me right now. Oh. Let me explain. Sorry. Yeah. Do you do that quite often?
Actually, I've almost completely shut down all chiropractic services now. Like I said, 150,000. I kind of I make a bigger impact by addressing lifestyle work.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my best friends came to you, and you did a treatment on him, and he's a pretty good, pretty manly guy. He does jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, and you made him cry, right?
He cries easier. He cries easier than he tells you. Trust me.
He's actually watching right now. Sorry, bro. Yeah, he's watching online right now. So, can you tell me what are some of the biggest myths? Now, by the way, for the remainder of the questions that we're going to talk about tonight, these were actually questions that were posed from the project. So we put it up earlier this week. We wanted to know what you guys think and stuff like that. Now, some of the questions we cannot get to today. I'm putting you guys on the spot here, but are you guys okay with sticking around a little bit? And if people want some more, dialogue with you guys?
Sure.
Great. Well, that works out great. Well, tell me, what are some of the general myths that people think about your respective fields? And anyone can go at any point in time.
I can start.
Yeah.
In psychology, there's lots of myths. I think in the church setting, one of the most common things I hear is, well, if your relationship with God would be better, you wouldn't have mental health issues. And that's just wrong. I mean, my counter argument to that would be, well, then we'd have to say the same thing about heart disease and cancer and diabetes. So, yeah, that's one that I hear all the time. Another one you hear is, I've got OCD and I've got ADHD. Everyone that you talk to has OCD and ADHD. Truth is, we all have it a little bit, but you actually have to meet a really specific set of diagnostic criteria to actually have OCD and ADHD.
Yeah. I'm your classic self-diagnosed person.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'll get like a sore throat on a Wednesday morning. I'm going to WebMD. And I'm like, great, I got leukemia and hepatitis B.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I'm prone to that.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario. Kendall, what about you?
I'm sure you can confirm too many myths to count when it comes to the field of nutrition. But what did I write down? That's a good question. I think for me personally, my big myth is that whenever I see a patient, they think I'm just going to make them eat salads all day, and I'm going to take away all their favorite foods, and I'm going to tell them not to drink coffee, and that is not what it looks like when you come and see somebody for a nutrition consult. We work within the framework of all foods fit within healthy eating. So just the idea that, you only have to eat rabbit food and salads and stuff is the big myth for me.
Okay, awesome. And Kelly?
I think the classic chiropractic myth is that bone cruncher is the probably the one I've probably had to address the most.
Yeah.
We
Everything
don't-
you see on TikTok,
yeah,
pretty
we,
much.
Yeah, we don't actually crunch any bones,
Well, thank God.
Yeah. Actually, it's the entire premise behind everything that we've ever done holistically is all about just getting the body to work as it was intended to work by helping remove blockage. And if you remove a blockage, all of a sudden everything starts working better, from neurological function to simple things like back pain. So, yeah, just that we're bone crunchers has been the biggest myth that I've probably dealt with for 20 years.
Got it. If you guys take anything away from tonight, just chiropractors are not bone crushers.
Crunchers.
Crunchers. Okay, great. Fantastic. That's a sermon in a sentence right there. I want to thank you for coming, because here's the thing. When we talk about holistic health correlating to the soul, I've had such a huge problem in my days to compartmentalize things in my life. My spirit was one thing, my mental intellect was one thing, my emotions was something else. But as a matter of fact, if you look at the role modelship of who Jesus is, everything is intertwined. Jesus, which is hard to explain, being fully God and fully man, being a complete supernatural deity, but also embracing the limitations of a human body. It's interesting when Jesus says in Mark, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength, right? And I believe that Jesus said that for a reason. He could have just said, love the Lord your God with everything, but he was specific, right? Because one introduces the heart, one introduces the soul, one introduces the mind and the strength. We got emotional health, spiritual health, mental health, and physical health. And so all these different things are so good, and I'm thankful that you guys are here to contribute to this conversation. And so my question for you first off is, like, in your respective fields, how or are you even allowed to bring God into your respective fields? And if you do, how does that look like? Or what does that look like?
I can start with that one. For me, it's pretty easy. First of all, I work with other Christian psychologists, so within the workplace, it's just an easy conversation. Two, before my clinics, I always pray for the people, not with them, but prior to seeing them, and because I'm going to be having a lot of hard conversations with them, when you're talking about an autism diagnosis. So I pray for that. And then another thing, people who come to see me, they're often looking for solutions, they're asking questions, and one of my common recommendations is, connect with the local church, consider your faith, and so sometimes those conversations are kind of easy.
Yeah.
In my, probably more so than in your guys' field, I would say.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine is similar in the way that I do try to pray for my patients. I have a lot of difficulty. There's, pediatric to long-term care. Patients are coming into issues and they're leaving this world with issues in my care. But on the opposite end, I don't, and I'm not allowed to speak about my religion with my patients, but I do really try to have, the Lord in my heart, be a good steward, so that throughout all my patient interactions, they can see Him working through me to the best of my ability.
Yeah, that's really good.
So the nice thing about chiropractic world is that it was built on a philosophy that it's all by design. Like the innate is what we call it in school, is what designed this amazing structure. So to transition into Christ is very simple, because it's a knowledge. It's a knowledge that there's no way that this happened by a Big Bang random event. It's not possible. When you look at the structure of the human eye, the structure of the nervous system, this is all by grand design, and they've been able to prove that all the way down to the structure of the DNA. So the conversation of healing, the conversation of having Christ, for me, has developed significantly over the past 20 years, from where it's all been about the innate to actually just being able to pray over my patients before an adjustment.
Yeah.
And God happens.
Yeah. That was beautiful and really well put from all you guys. Now, just for a second, let's focus on Kendall for just a moment. And we got a good chunk of questions coming from the project relating to nutrition and food and stuff like that. And can you explain to me, like, what is the correlation of nutrition and eating well to living a holistic, healthy lifestyle?
That's a really good question. Let me go to my
Thanks.
notes here.
That was asked by one of the young adults, by the way. It wasn't me.
Okay, so just as a disclaimer, I did refer to one of my mentors who is actually a dietitian at the eating disorder unit at the University of Alberta. Her name's Alicia Doberstein, and she is really well seated in the church, and I trust her a lot with this as well. So just so you know, it's not just coming from my expertise here. So first of all, the disclaimer is that nutrition is not the only thing that leads to good health. And I'm sure I don't have to say it, but there's so many factors that affect your health, social determinants of health, your income, your lifestyle, your housing situation, and so many things that are outside of your control, including your genetics. So everything that I say here, please take it with a grain of salt. And when we talk about a good life, food is more than just what goes into your mouth, it's how it comes into your mouth and the feelings and the relationship with food that you have. So all of those things impact food in and of itself. It's such a big field and such a small question. So at the end of the day, all foods fit. And there is no morality when it comes to food. There's no good versus bad foods. It's all about how we go about eating. So on a whole, to kind of whittle down on that question, I think that it really takes into account that living well with your food is involved with balance and not over-focusing on it, not making it an idol in your everyday, which very much carries over into the biblical sense of stewarding your body and not letting anything else become your priority and your idol over God.
That's really good. How does eating healthy relate to being a Christian? It's interesting because I was doing some reading some weird books, but one book I read was "What Would Jesus Eat?" And it was actually quite interesting because it took an analysis of that day culture and obviously what we would be eating and seeing down on all these like whole foods, seasonal stuff, fresh foods, and unprocessed foods, which compares to today our culture, it is like coffee, white bread, hot dogs and burgers, right? And here we are as North America as a whole with 55% of North America being obese. Okay, and when we start to talk about nutrition, now here's where it gets a little dicey, so please don't cancel me. But when we start to talk about nutrition, eating a healthy lifestyle, and when we bring up the word obesity, a lot of people be very, very quick to be like, don't body shame me. But are we body shaming ourselves when we don't fuel our bodies correctly? Because our bodies, as the Bible talks about, is a temple. And I feel like sometimes we don't honor our temple, but we actually shame our temple. Do you find that that is true? And how does eating healthy relate to being a good Christian, essentially?
Again, good question. So, obesity is a chronic disease that causes inflammation. It's not just someone losing control of food and bam, somebody comes obese. It's so much more than that. And like I said, the way that we eat is more than just, today I'm choosing to eat unhealthily and eat McDonald's every day. For the most part, it's foundationally, I don't have the money to be able to buy whole foods, paleo foods, whatever you might consider clean eating. And then it becomes a shame cycle to eating these kind of foods. And I think that whole idea of there's one way to eat healthy becomes this spiral of if you don't eat that way, then you should feel shamed and you're not taking care of your body and therefore you're not a good Christian because you're not taking care of your body like a temple. And so in a backwards way of thinking, the less we're concerned about food and what the right choice is, the more you're honoring your temple and body and your trust in God with what he's doing, because there's so much associated with your choices of food that you can't control. And that it's up to God to have those circumstances with your finances and your situation, and do you live in a food desert? And I could go on that. However, if food is something that you have the control with, then when you see a dietitian, we talk about things like the Canada's Food Guide, making half your plate fruits and vegetables, a quarter of your plate grain foods, a quarter of your plate protein foods, and we have a lot of good strategies for eating when you have a lower budget, when you're busy, when you're shift work, and all those things. So if you have a concern, if you're eating the best way for you, talk to your doctor, talk to your dietitian.
And I feel like a lot of people can be very quick and easy to make a lot of excuses to be like, but, inflation, or, I'm a student, or I work all the time and I don't have time to meal prep and stuff like that. But I feel like, through your answer, it could, we can always find a foundational step, right? To maybe at least aim ourselves to, fueling our body. I don't want to just say eating healthy, because that goes towards the myth, towards dietitians, but fueling our bodies the right way, right? Like anyone can start from somewhere, especially young adults, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Switching gears a little bit to Ryan. Now, your job is quite niche, but you do have a great knowledge over kind of like multiple different fields and areas. Now, one of the biggest things that we kind of wrestle with is, when we talk about mental health, it has the beauty about talking about mental health today is that it is now normalized, right? I think that there is care for people. I think it's easier to talk about because if I were to look at my parents, they would not be caught in a counseling room. They lack the self-awareness that is a stigma, a taboo that they can't talk about. But today, it is a beautiful thing to talk about mental health. But here's the thing. I know there's validity to mental health and mental health illnesses. Okay, but my question is, do some people take it maybe, and again, for those who go through mental health illnesses, that is totally appropriate and valid. But do you think there's some people who maybe take it a little too far and maybe get the line blurry with maybe confusing what is a mental health disorder or just having a rough week? And so what do you walk through with people and how to properly diagnose what is a true mental health illness and what is not?
Right. Yeah. I think, the difference between having a rough week and truly having a mental illness, I mean, we all have rough patches. We all go through the ebbs and flows of life, and that's just the rhythm and pattern of life. But usually when those stressors dissipate, the feelings of anger or sadness or stress or whatever it is, those dissipate too, or those resolve. And that's, what typically happens. If you have a mental illness or mental health disorder, we're talking about an overall disturbance in how you think and how you feel and how you behave. And so in those cases, you're going to be dealing with something that is all-encompassing. It's going to be long-lasting. It's going to cause a disruption to your life and your ability to properly function. And it's often associated with feelings of loss of control or the inability to resolve those unwanted feelings. So that's, part of figuring out, what your treatment is going to be. Do you need therapy or do we need something a little bit more? But yeah, we can distinguish between, the ebbs and flows of life and being seriously having a mental illness.
Yeah, absolutely. And so seeking that professional help is obviously the first step.
Sure.
You can't just diagnose yourself and be like, I have this.
Right.
Yeah, because that's actually quite insulting to someone who does have an actual mental health illness, right?
Yes.
And so I think obviously seeking professional help is the first thing. Now also there's this huge stigma, especially in the Christian world, about medication.
Oh yeah.
And what's your thoughts on that? Are you a bad Christian if you take meds? Are you not close with the Lord if you take a prescribed medication from a doctor?
Yeah. Again, medication is just another tool in our toolbox to treat mental illness. Sometimes for some people, therapy alone is okay, but for some people, they need to step it up and use medication. And again, I always go back to, someone has heart disease, if someone has diabetes, if someone has cancer, are we going to be ragging on them because they're taking chemotherapy or a statin or something like that? We don't. And it shouldn't be that way with mental illness either. And, in fact, a lot of times people with a medication in combination with therapy, these people can live symptom-free lives. So why not? Why would we even question that?
That's really well put. And Kelly, does that kind of overlap into your field as well? Any thoughts that you would like to add in terms of the stigma with Christians using medication and stuff?
I would say in my 20 plus years, I always work with people. If I get hit by a bus on my way out of here tonight, I'm going to tell you I'm going to be taking some serious meds.
Yeah. Rightly so.
Right? But the goal is to be able to live in a way that allows us to remove those as a consistent use point. And that's, again, where it's always function over form. And if you understand that, whatever intervention you happen to be in, it's a season in your life. Mm-hmm. And the season is to end up having the fullest, most productive, loving, caring life that you possibly can. And I've been in a position where I've got to see how, as a chiropractor, the other thing that I get to see is I get to be a lot of the last case, last straw. I've tried it all, and now I'm at your door. What can you do? So I've got to treat like every single profession on earth. And as a last straw intervention, people are willing to go that extra distance to do different and innovative things that, aren't widely accepted, but have just amazing outcomes when you're allowed to just let the body heal and let, God do his thing and just remove interference. And that interference can come from, I would say if you've never heard of things like gut health, that's our very first intervention for brain health, because they're directly connected. 92% of all serotonin is created in your GI system. So if you're continually inflaming your gut, you're not going to be the same happy person that you used to be before the inflammation came in.
I like that, and I like how obviously we want to live life without any derailment, right? And I like what Ryan said as well. Those medications it's used as a tool, a part of the toolbox. And I really do believe that God can heal today as He did in the Bible. But at the same time, there's a beauty in God ordaining and God gifting people with the skills to be psychologists or chiropractors or dietitians or counselors or therapists and things like that. Not everyone can be that. So I'm a pastor. I love being a pastor, but I'm thankful for you guys. Because if I start, doing therapy and peer counseling with people, this place would be a hot mess. And so thankful for God gifting people like you guys, for sure. Now, Kelly, you are a chiropractor, but you do have some expertise in sleep deprivation as well. Is that what you said?
From experiencing a long history of it, yes. So it's a personal passion of mine.
Now, I know Larissa was supposed to speak into this conversation, but I'm sure that you can give some really good advice and some wise advice here. But talk to us about a lot of the young adults that ask these questions relating to sleep, ask the question pretty much, I'm sure it's an easy answer, but does lack of sleep truly affect your day-to-day lives? In terms of a cognitive functionality level, can you be dumber if you lose sleep? That's essentially what one person asked, but I'm just kind of encompassing it all together.
When you started this whole thing, you said that you had gone through the Cole's or chapters, self-help books and everything like that. And I can relate to that as well. I've done the same thing. And one of the books that really resonated with me is, Why We Need Sleep. And from that book, I got this one line that changed my life, so I will pass it to you, and it is, above all things prior to Jesus Christ, protect your sleep. Protect your sleep. That means go to bed early. Hang up the phone early. Shut off the Netflix. Going to bed early completely changes your outcome for the next day. And I can speak from experience. I used to be the night owl, up late and up early, and you're a tenth as productive. You cannot chemically function the same in your body when you're not sleeping. Yeah. You'll have much higher levels of stress, much higher levels of cortisol levels, and higher levels of fat storage. Sleep is crucial.
Yes, and Jesus slept a lot. And Jesus gave himself permission to sleep, right? in a lot of moments, and in times where like people are vying for his attention, people wanted to talk to him. You know, he just got away and he rested, he slept, he dozed off to like regain that energy, right? And same thing with Elijah at a point in his life where he felt like literally suicidal. Like he told God to like, hey, kill me now. The very first thing was not like a dream or a prophecy. It was like, hey, just eat, fill your body, sleep, hydrate, repeat, right? And I feel like sometimes some of the most soul-filling practices are some of the most non-spiritual practices sometimes. And Jesus role modeled that very well. You know, like when the crowd's like he's preaching a bomb message and now everyone wants to get his attention, but no, he goes away and he rests and he sleeps. You know, like for me, like if I'm preaching a fire message and people are like, oh yeah, let's congratulate Ruben, like of course I'd want to like be in the crowd, like yeah, tell me how great I am. Other than like going to like bed and sleep, right? I think that's just our human nature that we want to be where the crowd is at and lose on that. Now, I'm not saying that like I think for generally speaking, a lot of young adults in our society, we do lack a lot of sleep. On average, the average person in between 18 and 24 years old gets on average of 5.5 hours of sleep a day. Okay? Now, is it true that, hey, 7 to 8 hours is like a true, like, hey, you need to hit that consistently every night? Is that true?
For me, it is.
What's that?
For me, it is.
Yeah, for you, it is. Ryan needs his beauty sleep. I do too. I can't function well without sleep. But for those who maybe have a very bad sleep cycle, which is a lot of you in this room, you know, they're scrolling, they're binge watching Cobra Kai on Netflix. I did that last week. I'm sorry. But for those who have already had like a bad rhythm of lack of sleep, what advice would you give somebody, and Kelly and Ryan, you can both like talk into this, is how do you get them back on track? Like what would be the first pieces of advice that you give them to be like, hey, I want to do better. I'm a very busy young adult. I know my sleep is lacking and it's affecting my day-to-day lifestyle. What would you say to them?
I would say right off the bat, you gotta, so nutrition is my absolute passion, because I've seen miracles happen. And so if you eat a bunch of trash before you go to bed or late at night, it will absolutely change how you sleep and how much energy you have and even your rhythms of sleep. So you can't eat crap before you go to bed.
I feel attacked right now, but continue.
I wasn't pointing you out. So cut it off early. Make sure you, I mean, there's, you know, like tactics, there's a million tactics. And as we get more and more, you know, into technology, we get more tactics, but the strategies or the principles are few, but the tactics are many. And so everybody's heard, drink your water. Like, water is a crucial part of keeping your body hydrated and allowing your body to detoxify and doing a brain flush while you're sleeping. So if you're not drinking your water, if you're living on energy drinks, which I did it, it's horrible, don't do it. It takes forever to regain health back from the energy drinks. And everybody knows, like the standard things that people know when they discount, turn your phones off 2 hours in advance. Don't lay in your bed and scroll. Prepare to go to sleep and prepare for a good sleep. Keep your room cool. Don't eat. Cut your food off by 7 o'clock. Go to bed early and drink your water. That's how easy.
I heard a lot of
that's how
gasps in
easy
this
sleep
room.
is.
Somebody else like, how dare you? How dare you say that? But it makes sense, you know. I think having like all of these different like priorities, and obviously everyone's bedtime is different. Some people they work night shifts. Some people work really early mornings, and so it depends, and it correlates to when your bedtime is, right? So if your bedtime is 10 o'clock, yeah, it makes sense to stop eating at 8 o'clock, and it makes sense to stop, turn off your screens at 9 o'clock to allow like that natural melatonin to kick in, and it allows you to hit deep sleep, correct? Yeah. Anything, Ryan, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'd concur with everything that Kelly said. I'm not a sleep expert, but I do come across, sleep problems quite often, and one of the things we do tell people, like you said, Kelly, is unplug. Like a couple hours before you go to bed, like turn off all screens and even like dim the lights in the house. Another thing that we tell people is to just to keep their bedrooms for sleeping. Just don't be laying in your bed and and hanging out and watching TV and eating. Like, you go to bed to sleep. And so yeah, that's just a couple of things that we recommend.
No, that's really cool. Let's switch towards just a topic of stress for a moment. Now, Kendall, I haven't talked to you in a little bit here, so I want to circle back to you. I did send you this question, and the question was from one of the young adults is, how much does stress impact the body's ability to receive and store ingested nutrients?
So this one's interesting. I actually did some research into it because I don't get this kind of question very often. And so I'm not sure what this scenario of the person's stress is referring to. However, in what we call acute situation in short term, if you're having high levels of stress, you're activating your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight, and it's diverting the blood away from your GI system to your muscles and your brain to help you react to whatever the situation is. And in that scenario, you can have loss of appetite, you can have nausea, stomach upset, because you're just not giving that kind of blood flow to your GI system. However, if you're someone with chronic stress or high cortisolemia chronically, that's the cortisol, the stress hormone that Kelly mentioned earlier, that is actually associated with other health conditions, higher health risks with your heart. You have a higher possibility of developing things like obesity, type 2 diabetes, and high cholesterol, high triglycerides. So we see those conditions associated with people with chronic stress. So receiving and storing itself, I associate with like your habits of eating when you're stressed. Maybe you're someone who stress eats. Maybe you're someone who stress doesn't eat anything at all. So I think that would more impact than the actual like metabolic function. Kelly, do you have anything to comment on that one?
With regards to stress, so in my world now, we're like somewhere around 93% of all North Americans over the age of 20 are exhibiting signs of metabolic syndrome. The more things that you do that create inflammation in your body, it adds stress. So even like if you go back 20 years, I always used to say, listen, there's 3 things. I have a very simple brain, so I have to boil everything down to real simple concepts. And you manage 3 things, and you can change the way that your body functions. You have to manage the biochemicals that you put in your mouth. You have to manage the way that your body functions, and we do that through functional exercise. And you have to manage the stress. If you can manage those 3 things, then the body functions 1,000,000 times better.
All really beautifully said. Now, for you 3, none of us live perfect lives. Have you guys ever found in your day-to-day jobs seasons of chaos, going with the whole Helter Skelter expression? Have you found your lives at one point chaotic, or even to the point of like burnout or extreme stress and anxiety? Have you ever experienced that? And if you have, how have you bounced back from it?
I can start on this one because I don't know if you can tell, I don't have 20 years of experience as a dietitian. So I actually recently started my position at this new hospital back in August, so I'm at about 4 months or so. Very chaotic, trying to learn all these different areas as a new practicing dietitian. And I found that I just felt very overwhelmed, and I felt like I didn't know at all what I was doing, very much imposter syndrome starting out, as I'm sure many of us have experienced. But what I had to learn to do, and talk with my therapist to do, is to ask for help more often. And even though I am now a professional in my field, I am not someone with 20 years of experience. I don't have to act like I have 20 years of experience, and it's okay to say, I don't know, I'll get back to you. And just knowing that that was okay was so comforting to me, and I've not been looked at differently. People understand that I can't know all 100 different chronic illnesses people come in with, so that's been the biggest thing for me, yeah.
So in my life, like, to be honest, it's probably more chaotic than normal. I don't even know what normal is anymore. But, I think the truth is, once, you have I don't know, it just seems the older you get, there's more going on. The more you have, the more responsibility you have, like with kids, marriage, family, work stressors. So all those things together, have the potential to create chaos. I think for me, I know what I need to do. I don't always practice it though. And, and for me, what I try to remind myself to, put God before everything. That's number one. Make sure that my relationship with God is intentional and that it's healthy. Number two, make sure that my relationships with my family is intentional and in good shape. That might mean date nights, might mean spending time with the kids. Thirdly, you try to take care of yourself physically and emotionally. That's where our exercise, nutrition, and all that comes in. And fourth, I just try to keep a good pace and rhythm with my professional life. And again, I'm a big failure when it comes to that, and I talk a big talk. But it's what I know what I need to do, and I always am reminding myself and trying to do those things.
So, with your permission, I could just get real for just a second. In my life, and particularly since opening a practice and young kids, and I have had some really dark times. Overcome with anxiety and that whole host of negative emotions that you feel like you're completely out of control. And I always fall back to my little simple brain that only can think three things at a time. And I was like, okay, so if I can't control all of those things that are out there. I can only control the fact of what I can put in my mouth. I can control my body and what little exercise I can actually force it to do. And I can control my prayers to God. And those three things have got me through the loneliest, worst, darkest times in my life. And I say it like, control is an illusion. We have no control over anything. So if you can control this little tiny thing that you have, I would say that was my best tool to deal with overwhelming anxiety.
Yeah, that's really good. And on that note, just to conclude our time together, because I do want to honor your time, and we do have some stuff to do afterwards as well. But this has been such a great conversation so far. And I do want to say that I put them on the spot earlier, but they're good to answer some questions from you guys if you want to go just approach them individually. And so after the service is done, I'm going to ask the panel to go towards the guest lounge, which is a room right across the lobby and next to the cafe, and they'll kind of hang out there. And if you want to go talk to them and ask them any more questions, then you're more free to do so. But as we kind of finish off, one last quick question. In just a sentence or two, what do you want? What is the main thing that you want your clients to grasp? And it could be one piece of advice, one simple thing. It could be not to overthink it or anything, but just if you can get this, then you have a foundation to really succeed in the future.
So I guess for me, and it's maybe not so much for my clients, but it's for me and for everybody that I encounter in life. One of the staff members here at church told me when we were going through a really difficult time, one of my kids had a devastating diagnosis, and this was years ago, but the pastor said, just be assured that this too has crossed God's desk. That's such a simple statement, but it's so profound. And that has helped me through many things, many stressors, many ups and downs in life. So that's what I think those were wise words. It's Pastor Gary, by the way.
Legend.
I have two things, I'll say them both really quickly. So the first thing is, food trends, fad diets, things like that you see on social media are very manipulative. Please be careful of who and where you get that information from. Particularly registered dietitian, registered nutritionist, dietitian, nutritionist are all legally protected titles within Alberta. Those are people you can go to, you can trust, your doctor. If someone is giving you health advice that is not evidence-based, just please take that with a grain of salt. That's my first one. You can talk to a dietitian, you go call HealthLink at 811. It's free to call. You don't need a referral to go to a dietitian. Second thing, I just want to read from Matthew 6:25. So I tell you, don't worry about the things you need to live, what you will eat, drink, or wear. Life is more important than food, and the body is more important than what you put on it. If food is becoming your idol, whether you're obsessed with clean eating, green eating, whatever kind of eating it is, just check yourself. Is that becoming a priority over God's purpose for your life? How can you draw balance to that? And if you need help, reach out to your dietitian, reach out to your doctor.
I think if, 20 years, it probably changes. I would say the one thing that I try to convey now would be that maybe it doesn't have to be that hard, right? Like maybe we make things way harder than they're supposed to be. And personally, I have found, and through talking with some close colleagues, the more that you invite Jesus into your day-to-day, like I was thinking about this before, like why do we only pray when bad things happen? Why don't we pray before good things happen? Like we, it's like, oh my gosh, when things are really bad, you pray. But the more often you pray, the more you invite Jesus with you throughout the day, the better your day is. That's for sure.
You guys, I just want to thank you so much for just bringing such valuable input into this topic. And could you guys give them a round of applause? As they're just absolutely top notch. And I do want to commend you guys, for example, Kendall, you've come through the project and you've been such a key leader with me and with our ministry here on Sunday nights. And it's so cool to see how God is just blessing your practice in that specific field. And with Kelly and Ryan, you guys have, kids who are young adults now and they're here, they're at the project. And that's super cool to raise up children who are living lives for the Lord and living a very healthy lifestyle in the best way possible. And so you guys are just you're just all top notch. And so thank you so much for being a part of this. And thank you for saying yes to being part of this conversation, guys. Appreciate you all. But that is going to be it for today. Now, if there's some questions that were not answered or you want some clarity or more explanation, and feel free to go talk to these guys. They're going to take their time. They're going to go around the hallways and get there eventually. So please be patient with them. But the night's not over yet. We got some stuff happening. A couple options before you guys go. Number one is we have different choose your adventure night, and so different options happening in the lobby and right here in the auditorium. Number one, we got Christmas themed hot chocolate on sale. I think they're like candy cane hot chocolate, and so if you want to sip on that, because we're gonna have a little live music coffee house happening in the lobby. There's gonna be some couches, some table, and so if you want to go get some hot chocolate and just chill, relax, talk to some friends, meet new people while listening to some live music, great, go for it. Right here in the auditorium, Pastor Abby is going to be leading a game on the screen. And if you want to participate, all you need is your phone and Wi-Fi to connect to the game, because there is a prize. And I hear it's a great prize, but I'll let her have the honors to introduce the prize to you. And then the third thing is something a little different, but I thought it'd be really, really cool, is that we have tables there and there, and we have a bunch of blank cards. And I thought it'd be really cool towards December and this Christmas season, if you guys want to sit down and write just a basic general encouragement card and have this kind of outreach, outward bound thinking. Take the card, put it in an envelope, and maybe take it and bless someone's day or week, either tonight or sometime this week. Say, hey, write a card that says, hey, just been thinking about you, praying for you, God loves you. It doesn't have to be that overcomplicated, and maybe when you go out to food later and give it to the waiter or waitress at Joey's, I'm not totally sure. But I thought it'd be so cool to write some cards and use that as an act of kindness to bless someone's week. And so that's an option for you guys to do. There's some tables there with some blank cards. And we got Advent books on sale today for $5. I think there's a limited supply. Now, if this is something I wrote last year, and so if you got this last year, you don't have to buy it again. But I know the project has changed over the year, and so if you want to grab this, it's only $5. It walks you through a good chunk of Bible reading, and so definitely take a good 10, 15, 20 minutes to do your Bible reading, and then I write down some thoughts on that page. Today's December 1st. It is the first day of Advent, and so if you grab one, you can start just today. And then finally, we have a great worship night happening this Saturday night at the Terwilliger campus. We did that on purpose, knowing that you guys have finals around the corner, and the reason why we wanted to do it is to allow you to stop, rest, come, relax, be a part of our worship night. It's going to be a great time to put a pause on all your exam studying, be with just good people, have a great worship experience, and then leaving feeling rejuvenated and rested. And so that's happening this Saturday at 7 p.m. at the Terwilliger campus. We're going to put some more information on Instagram, including the set list that we're going to be singing for this Saturday. So if you want to take the set list, we'll make a Spotify playlist. You can download it, listen to it, and just come just anticipating some great stuff. But that is pretty much about it for tonight, guys. I want to say thank you so much for being here. It's been a great month going through this series, and I hope it's brought some value to you. I've had a lot of good conversations with you guys, other young adults that have taken a lot from this teaching series. So once again, you guys can talk to our guests. They're going to be going to the guest lounge in the next couple of minutes. Pastor Abby's going to get started with the Christmas game right here pretty much right away. So if you want to stick around and just be a part of that, that's totally up to you. But other than that, just want to say that we think about you guys. We love you guys. We pray for you guys. God bless. We'll see you guys next Sunday.